I will go ahead and get started. All right, so hello everybody who's here. It's so nice to see you all. So this talk is about, as you can see, everything you need to know about Racing the Planet Georgia. And we are so excited that we are going to be able to get out there and be back at our races and be in one of the coolest countries that I've ever been to. It's a very unique place, and I can't wait to get out there. So a quick introduction for our team as well, because we have a few people on the call who are part of the Racing the Planet team. We've got Mary Gaddams here, who is the CEO and founder of Racing the Planet, Sam Fanshawe, who is an event director, and Rita Hannanen, who is also an event director as well, and she is working directly with me. And my name is Dana, for those of you who don't know me. All right, so the agenda of what we are going to go over. I'll start with a quick introduction on what Georgia is, the race and the race series. But again, I think most everyone here knows what we're all about. I'll go over the race itinerary as well as a whole. And then I will go into some more specific details on the logistics, updated COVID protocols. And then Rita will share with you information about the beautiful course and do a bit of photo sharing stage by stage. We'll also go through some weather and course conditions you need to be aware of. And I will talk a little bit about equipment. I won't go into too much detail about equipment just because that is quite a big topic, but just the key items. And then I won't say final race and travel reminders because we are 43 days away. Wow, 43 days away from the start of the race. But as we know, in this sort of evolving situation, things can change, and I will keep you updated. And then at the end, we'll have time for Q&A, and I will ask that you hold your questions until we go through all of our main points, and then you guys can fire away all the questions I'm sure you will have for me. All right, so what is Racing the Planet Georgia? For those of you who don't know, 250 kilometers, 155 miles, 6 stages, 7 days, self-supported ultra marathon in one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And it's going to be in the southwest corner of the Republic of Georgia. It's an area called Javakheti. Even the name itself just is like, wow, so cool. The 2021 edition will be the 12th edition of the Ultra Marathon, and this series began in 2008 and is normally held in a different location every year. But as you know, last year we weren't able to hold a race because everything has been postponed, but we are ready to move forward now. And in addition to this Ultra Marathon, which I sometimes call the roving race, which is what it used to be called, we organize races that are part of the Four Deserts Ultra series, and that's the Namib race in Namibia, the Gobi March in Mongolia, Atacama Crossing in Chile, and the Last Desert every other year in Antarctica. And again, I'm just going to give a brief summary of what the races are about, but every day you go about 40 kilometers, about a marathon distance for stages 1 through 4. Stage 5 is usually what we call the Long March, and that's about a double marathon. And then stage 6 is a nice little jaunt to the finish line. And over those wonderful and challenging and beautiful and magnificent 7 days, we give you pink flags to follow along a spectacular course, checkpoints along the way, and at those checkpoints, we have our team of amazing volunteers, medical doctors, and staff there to support you. We provide you with water and any medical support that you need as well. And then, of course, my favorite part of the races are the camps. And we have wonderful campsites waiting for you with tents, hot water, fires, and that's where we can all gather and socially distanced share our stories from that day. So the race itinerary. So like I said before, 43 days to go, not that long till we're all at that start line. The host town is Tbilisi, and Tbilisi is the capital of Georgia. It's a very, very cool little town. And if you have time to explore after the race, you you should definitely take that opportunity. It's also, Georgian food is really great for either carbo loading ahead of a big race or refueling after a big one. On the 12th of August, so the Thursday before the start of the race, volunteers will arrive at any time and will go directly to Camp 1. On the 13th of August, Friday, you, the competitors and racers, will arrive and will go directly to Camp 1. And also on that Friday, the volunteers will have their training, which will take place at Camp 1. On Saturday, we will do a competitor check-in, which includes medical checks, paperwork, and the mandatory equipment review, and that happens at Camp 1. And then on Sunday, the 15th of August, we all line up and get ready to have the most amazing 7 days of your life exploring Georgia. And just like that, we're on to the next Saturday, the following Saturday, and going through the finish line, and that's the end of the race. We will transfer you from the finish line back to Tbilisi, where there will be, you will share a hotel room in town, and we will have an awards banquet, and you spend one night in Tbilisi, and then on Sunday, you can either continue on with travels, go home, do whatever you would like to do. And that is the general schedule of the race. Now going into a bit more detail on the pre-race logistics and sleeping arrangements. So I just want to start to briefly give you an overview of Georgia. From my last update, nothing has changed. The best, most efficient, safest, easiest way to get into the country is to have proof of your COVID vaccination. And the COVID cases in Georgia have been on a steady decline over the last 2 months, so that is very good news. And they have been gradually reducing all of their restrictions that they've had in place for the last 2 years. So they are getting ready to fully welcome us to their beautiful country. So some of this information, for those of you who are registered for the race, you will have received, but I will go through everything here. There will be no pre-race hotel. As a racer, you will spend one extra night at camp. And when you arrive, all of your bags, all of your normal luggage will come with you to Camp 1. I will be organizing transfers throughout Friday because I know one of the main concerns I've heard from a few people is that your flights arrive quite late on Friday. But that's no problem, as long as I know your flight schedule, which I've asked you to provide in the forms, so make sure you've filled those out. I will be organizing the transfers around everyone's schedule. We are not going to be providing pre-race meals, so you will need to bring food for yourself starting from when you get into camp. This doesn't have to be freeze-dried meals, although it can be if you want to have them for a few extra days. It can be any type of food that you want to bring, tin food, vegetables or fruit that can hold up for a few days. You don't have to start carrying your food in your pack until the Sunday of the race. We will be doing the equipment check at Camp 1. So you need to make sure you have all of your items because there will be no opportunity to get anything that you are missing. We will be doing a pre-race briefing on Zoom, so it will be similar to this, probably about a week ahead of the race, and you can join it from wherever you are. If you're unable to join it, of course, we will record it, and you can watch it at a time that's convenient for you before you get to Camp 1. We will be requiring face masks to be worn at camp and in vehicles. So any of the bus transfers or vehicle transfers that you are in from Tbilisi to Camp 1 and then back to Tbilisi, you will need to be wearing a face mask. And when you are at camp, you will also need to be wearing a face mask. You'll need to have at least one face mask per day, and you will need to carry them with you in your pack. Sleeping arrangements at camp. So we have 3 different options for your sleeping arrangements at camp. And you, again, in the forms I ask you to fill out, I've asked you to choose which arrangement you would like. We have our quote unquote normal Kodiak tents, which we will have 2 to 3 people in the Kodiak tent. Normally that tent can have 6 or 7 people in it. Another option is we will have checkpoint tents set up inside camp, and you can sleep under those checkpoint tents. They will have a thin flooring, but there are no sides. So that is really sleeping in the outdoors. And the third option, if you would like, is you can bring your own single person tent with you, and we will transport that for you from camp to camp. That's not something that you need to carry with you in your pack. And with all of these options, whichever option it is that you choose, we are suggesting, requiring, we would like you to bring an extra sleeping bag or blanket for warmth. And the reason for that is because if you are in a checkpoint tent, it's going to get a bit chilly in the evenings. And if you're in a Kodiak tent, we may leave the tent doors open to allow air to flow through. And when you do bring that extra sleeping bag or blanket, you don't need to carry that with you during the race, but you will have access to it every evening when you get back to camp. Okay, so going on, excuse me, going on to talk about some specific COVID-related protocols and the post-race arrangements. So during the race, we will have access to PCR tests and rapid tests. They will be available pre-race and during the race as needed. If we do have someone who shows symptoms that are COVID-related, they will be isolated at camp. We will have an isolation tent, and the PCR test will be administered. Depending on the conversations that you have with the doctor and the severity of the symptoms, you may be able to continue on with the race that day, but that will really depend on that situation, and you will need to remain in the isolation tent and socially distance along the course. When that test comes back negative, then you can rejoin the race. So PCR tests for getting home. This has been another question that's come up quite a lot, because I think it's most countries now require that you have a PCR test to get back home. And some of you are traveling quite early on Sunday morning, and that's fine. We will organize to have the PCR test administered on the rest day most likely, and results are generally available 8 to 12 hours after the test is received. And the cost for this is between $30 to $50. Race finish. I think I already mentioned this, but I'll mention it again. We'll transport you from the finish line to Tbilisi, where you will then be able to check into a hotel where you'll share with one other person, unless you've specified otherwise with me. And then we will celebrate the awards banquet as we are able to. We definitely will have a celebration. We just need to make sure that we're following the indoor rules as they will be in Georgia. That is my part now on all of kind of rules, regulations, and logistics. And now I'm going to hand it over to Rita, who will talk about the course.
Okay, so we'll take you to the southeast part of Georgia now, and this is the Javakheti area. And really, like, you really feel there like you're at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. It's all the way from Tbilisi to the course and through that. It's really, really charming. Where you see the more of the town culture in Tbilisi, but then as we get here, this is really where the true sort of traditional parts start. And believe me, it's going to be really local. So you see a lot of local life, and in many ways, it's like going back, 250 years back in time. Things that we don't see at home anymore. So 250 kilometers, 155 miles, and the course starts from a really wonderful forest area, actually really old forest of Algeti. And you'll also see, besides forest, you'll be going through like really cool mountain passes, up and down, a lot of undulation there, dormant volcanic valleys. You'll see quite a lot of the countryside culture with, you know, people with farm animals, shepherds and their dogs, all sorts really, and also some wild birds and so on. And then traditional monasteries and churches that Georgia is really full of. So really quite nice, diversified things throughout the course. Let's go to stage 1. Sorry, not yet. We'll go to the summary of the course. So here you see the stage distances and elevation. I'm not going to go through all of this, but I suppose to give you a quick tally, I can say that the first 4 days come close to a marathon distance, so 40 kilometers or 25 miles. And following this, you will then have the long march, which is our stage 5 normally in the races. And this comes close to 80 kilometers or 48 miles. And this is where you basically have, well, some people will run this through in a sort of nice 7 to 8 hours, easy peasy. And then some people who like to take photos and enjoy the scenery might take up to about 24 hours. But either way, no matter how you do it, you will have the rest day. So basically you're starting on Thursday morning and going through the evening, possibly through the night to the next morning. And then Friday is the day when you can really get your feet up and enjoy the camp life and have fun. And by that time, you normally know that the race is completed. So then stage 6 is what we also call the pizza run. So it's celebrations and getting through to the finish line. Okay, so let's look at the elevation profile just briefly. I mean, here you see what I mean by undulation. So up and down. Southern Georgia and the South Caucasus Mountains aren't as sharp the way how they look, but actually they are really quite high. And this is something to bear in mind when you keep going through the course. So like really pace yourself, and you may feel the effects of the elevation when you first start. But the highest points are along stage 3 and then stage 4, where you get to close to 3,000 meters or about 9,000 feet. But more or less on average, the course is between 1,000 to 2,000 meters, 3,300 to 6,600 feet basically. All right, let's look at stage 1. So here's a couple of pictures from our recce actually. So you'll be going through various highlights, but the Javakheti National Park is a really cool place to start from. And you'll be going through some villages, reservoirs, and the Barati Lake. And there's a bit of detail for you more about the distances. And actually all of this is also available on the website. So I'm not going to start reading every little bit for you. The terrain also varies. Actually, I will mention the terrain as a whole for the course. So you'll be really going through dust roads, trails, fields, rocky valleys. So all sorts of things really. We'll guarantee that your shoes will be quite done by the end of the race. Stage 2, here you will be going through along the ancient Silk Road. Some of that you can see very easily. You see some cobbled rocks, but some of it is just that we know that that's where it used to go. You'll be crossing through the Javakheti Pass and by the Tapaskuri Reservoir as well. Stage 3, this is where you get into, you will go through a lot of the villages. Still, this is getting higher already, so you're getting close to about 2,500 meters, but here you see the total gains on the notes. And ancient tombs will be some of the highlights that you'll be seeing, and then also a couple of churches. Stage 4 is the highest one. You'll get up to a place called Lake Levani, which is really quite cool. And this is the area of the inactive volcanoes. So you will be seeing, it gets quite rugged and rough altogether. Lots of gravel and stuff like that. And stage 5 starts from a very cool village called Tampovka. You can see Carlos is having some tea there. This was a couple of years ago. And this is a cool place because it's home for the ethnic Russian minority called Tukopors. And very friendly people, but many of them don't even speak Georgian. So they live quite remotely there. And so this is where the long march starts, and you'll be going past a wonderful, beautiful lake first, and then start climbing up. And you climb up until at checkpoint 2, you get to see this ancient old fortress called Abuli. There's a bit of rock climbing, gravel sliding there as you get through. And then on the long march, you'll have a total of 7, Campis being the 7th checkpoint, basically. So it comes close to 80 kilometers or 48 miles. And the final stage. So after your rest day, you will have a nice, fairly short distance to go. The views are wonderful up there. And the good news is that this is really, everything is downhill. And you'll run or walk or limp down to the ancient cave city of Varsia, where we will then have celebrations. And you will have time to look around there. There's wonderful things to see. So just a quick summary on the course conditions and the weather altogether. So August is starting to be towards the end of the summer in Georgia, but the weather can still be quite hot. So it could be up to sort of 30s Celsius, but also could be already colder. So this is what we always say in Racing the Planet race briefings. You could get everything really. So just be prepared, and that's why we have the equipment list and also the drop back. We are close to mountains, so the weather can change very quickly. There are no major river crossings, but again, there could be if it starts raining a lot. So those kind of things will basically give you a course briefing every morning, half an hour before the stage starts. And in that one, we'll remind you of the conditions on the stage, but we'll also let you know if anything new is going to happen. So that's the last time we'll give you the most recent updates, basically. And the elevation, just a reminder to pace yourself and take one day at a time. And I think this was the last one, Zaina, right? Yeah, I just saw that Carlos, who is behind this course, actually, I think he's here on the call. So at the end, if you got questions about the course, especially the tricky ones, you can give to him.
Thank you, Rita. I'll take over now. And just like she said, that's good. Carlos is here, so he can answer any course-related questions as well. Okay, so now I'm going to shift gears slightly and talk a little bit about equipment. I will be sending out the final equipment list next week, which will have full details of all of the items, the drop bag items, and our advice on which type of bag to use, etc. So this is really just going to be a brief overview, and also equipment can go into quite a long conversation, and Sam has hosted a Zoom call on equipment, so we can share that with you if you haven't seen that, because that does help with giving some guidance on the different items. So the equipment list. There are 36 items on the list, plus the 2 drop bags I've mentioned. The key items that you should have now will be shoes, backpack, hydration system, and food. Shoes important because you've got to protect those tootsies that are going to be carrying you for 250 kilometers. So make sure that the shoes that you are using you are comfortable with and they work well for your feet. They have a bit of room for swelling that might happen, and that they fit your foot well. We recommend trail shoes, but you could get away with road running shoes if that's what you are more comfortable with. Pick the shoe that works best for you. Backpack is also very important. It's going to be your best friend and your worst enemy. Your best friend because it's holding all of those little treats in it to motivate you to get to the next checkpoint, whatever those little treats are, maybe your iPod, maybe your gummy bears. But then you're going to probably hate it as well because it is going to weigh somewhere between 8 to 10 kilos. And so you want to make sure that that backpack is as comfortable as it can be. Some of the key areas to check on the backpack are that the straps are in comfortable places for you, that you have little pockets in places that make sense for you, and that it just generally fits you well, and you have been taking it out on your training. The hydration system, the vessel just as much is as important, but also what you put into it, your electrolyte plan as well. So both of those items are quite important. When it comes to how you want to carry your fluids, it's generally between a camel pack in your backpack and bottles on the front of the pack. We always err on the side of the bottles in the front because they're easy to access. They and you can see how much you have left. There aren't any surprises. And if they did spring a leak, it's not going to get everything in your backpack wet. But it is a personal choice. And importantly is to consider your electrolyte plan as well. You need to know what your body needs. It's going to be different for everybody, and understand what your body needs in times of when it might be a bit stressed as well, and what you can actually get in and keep in. And food, similar to electrolytes, is also very, very important that you have a proper nutrition plan. You know what works for you. You've tested out everything, and you know the foods that you like, that works, and you can, like I said, with electrolytes as well, you can get in and keep in. And there's also a specific call that Sam hosted on nutrition and electrolytes as well, and we can share that with you too, so you can get more information. So some optional items to consider: a sleeping pad. This is will add a little bit of extra protection between you and the ground, a little bit of extra warmth as well. They either will be inflatable, which is then more compact and easier to store in your bag, but then there's a risk of it puncturing, and also you have to inflate and deflate it every day. And there's also the folding mats, which are a bit bulkier, but are still lightweight, and you can strap them to the outside of your bag, and you don't have to worry about them deflating. Trekking poles, as you saw the elevation chart, there is quite a bit of up and down, and trekking poles can help you out with going up and going down. And when your legs are tired, it's good to have an extra set there, an extra set of support. Just make sure you're comfortable with using those trekking poles. Rita mentioned about the countryside culture, which includes shepherds and their sheepdog. So there will be shepherds and sheepdog along the course, and we will have a team set up to work with those shepherds to make sure that they are off of the course and that the dogs are away from us. However, if you get a little bit worried about dogs, kind of like I do, then you may feel more comfortable if you get like one of these, it's an ultrasonic sound device that then can kind of will deter the dog. Now, to the drop bags, this has been a question that's come up in some of the emails that we've had back and forth. So we will want you to have 2 separate drop bags. One of them will be for the sleeping bag and extra blanket that you can bring, which you will have access to every night when you get back at camp. And then there will be a separate drop bag, which will have extra clothing items that you will only have access to if we are in a situation where we want you to have your warm clothes. So this is something that you won't have access to during the race unless there is an inclement weather type of situation. So like I said, I've just kind of gone over quickly on the key items, and I will be sending an update out with more details and advice on different types of items as well, different styles and different types of bags that you could use for these drop bags as well. And that will go out next week. Okay, notes for, just some general notes for race preparation. Again, I think I'm talking to people who are pretty familiar with our races and know these things, but just as a reminder, the two main reasons that people sometimes don't complete a race is because of stomach, GI problems, and blisters, which is why when I was talking before, shoes are so important, and also making sure that you have a nutrition plan and electrolyte plan that you know works for you. I think Rita mentioned that there are no major river crossings, but weather could affect conditions, so you might end up with wet feet. And it is important that if you're on the course in between checkpoints and you feel a hot spot, you've got that blister kit in your pack, go ahead, take it out and take care of that hot spot before it turns into something worse, because it really isn't going to get better by the time you get to the checkpoint. It will probably get worse. So it's better just to take care of it with the equipment that you have on your back. And the other thing to remember, that it is a stage race and you should pace yourself. And we know that the preparation for this race, preparation for these races is always challenging, and it can be fun too. But on top of it, we've had this extra layer of uncertainty with, is the race happening, is it not happening? And now we do know that we're going forward with it, but we know that that has probably put a little bit of extra pressure and stress on you. And so just to remember, it's a stage race. You take it a day at a time, a checkpoint at a time. And when things get really challenging, just break it down one foot in front of the other. That's really it. I mean, I live by that advice in my normal life too. Just one thing, one foot in front of the other, and you'll get there. Notes for travel preparation. Insurance. This is another point that has come up a lot. A lot of people have had a lot of questions about. It will probably be necessary to have two sets of insurance. One which covers our race requirements for evacuation and overseas hospitalization, and one which will cover travel disruption and COVID-related issues. It will probably depend which country you're coming from, what type of insurance you need to get, but we do have some experience with that, so you can go ahead and message me, as some of you already have, and I can help out with giving suggestions. Another point, make sure the flights you have are refundable, or that your travel insurance will refund you in case of cancellation. I don't want to have to say that, but it is something that is realistic in the current situation that we are in. We are ready for this race. It is going to happen. From our side, we will make it happen. But we are in a situation where there are still things that are out of our control that may change our plans. So just make sure that you know your refund cancellation points with your flight. Visa. Most of the people who are registered for the race won't require a visa to get into Georgia, but please do double check. It is quite an open country with regards to visa, but some countries do require, that Georgia does require, if you're traveling from certain countries, you may need to apply for an e-visa, and that means you will probably need to get an invitation letter, and I can help with that. So again, let me know if you're not sure or if you need that invitation letter. So these are all of my main points, and I feel like I've gone through like logistic stuff and kind of boring stuff, or I just want to reiterate that we are really looking forward to being back out there, being with the Racing the Planet community again, and friends and family, being able to be in a beautiful country, racing in the outdoors. And it's been a long time coming, but we can't wait to be back out there. So I will now open this up for questions.
Yeah, it's Gudrun here. I've heard with regard to wildlife that, as you mentioned, the sheepdog are probably our worst enemy, if you can say so. I've heard that you hardly see any bears or wolves, but that the sheepdog can be quite vicious. well, they defend their herd. So if the shepherd is not around, they can be quite aggressive. So maybe that dog whistle you mentioned is a good thing to have.
Yeah, that's correct. The sheepdogs, that's their job, is to protect their herd. So if, like I said, if it is something, if you feel a bit worried about dogs, then you should bring it along. But we will have a team there that is working directly with the local villages and the shepherds as well to make sure that we will be patrolling the course as well. So the sheepdogs will be there, but we will also be managing that.
I mean, when you have been in the area to check out the course, have you found that this was a problem? Have you seen a lot of them on the course, or?
There's not a lot, but there are shepherds along the course, yeah. But not a lot, no.
Okay.
Zena, you mentioned that it was possible to get the PCR test probably on the rest day.
Correct.
Is it possible to get it on the Saturday or the Sunday at the end of the race?
Yeah, we will be working with a lab in Georgia. So if you have specific dates where you want to make a booking to have the PCR test, then yes, we will work with them and they will be able to administer the test for the date that you need it for your travel date.
Perfect, thank you.
Hey, Zena, it's Darren.
Hi, Darren.
Awesome job putting this together. I know you said we're stressed out. I can't imagine the stress level that you all have had, but great job. I've got one question just on logistics. Can you elaborate a little bit on the food before the race starts? You said we're going to need it. Can you just elaborate on what's available to us for that and what we should plan for?
Of course. So we will plan to have you arrive camp on Friday. So as soon as you arrive to camp, you will need to have you need to be able to have food for your time at camp until the end of the race. And that can be freeze-dried meals, or it can be tin food, like tin tuna, something that's a bit heavier. It can be also fresh stuff that maybe could last for a few days because you don't have to actually be carrying it with you until you start on the course. I'm going to try and see if I can't promise this yet, but I'm going to try and see if there could be some options for some type of food delivery to Camp 1, but that I need to look into. So for now, you need to plan to have the food that you need for those extra meals.
Okay, so that's maybe dinner Friday, and then 3 meals on Saturday.
Exactly.
Okay, and we'll just have the usual fire and kind of whatever else we need to have on us. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question about bringing my own tent, my own solo tent.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, am I responsible for putting that up myself, or will that get erected by the crew just like they would any other tent?
We should be able to help to have you set it up because I'm thinking you're probably going to be pretty tired after a marathon in the mountains. So we will try and be able to help you to set that up.
Great, thanks.
If I may, I have 2 questions from my side. One is in relation to the temperature. Is it, you said between 10 and 30 degrees, is 10 the night temperature or is it the minimum day temperature? So that is the first question. And the second question in relation to drop back 2, is it what kind of clothes am I supposed to put in there? Like the items that are on the mandatory list or some additional items like a really warm jacket or something? Thanks.
So to answer your first question, that's sorry, I didn't specify that. 10 is the coldest temperature in the evenings, and then 30 will most likely be the hottest during the day. With regards to drop bag number 2, we do have a specific list of items, and I will send that across to you. It's also available on the website. And those items are, I believe it's an extra pair of warm pants, an extra jacket, extra pair of gloves, extra pair of socks as well. So it's in case your clothing that you're carrying for the race were to get very wet, and then you would need warm, dry clothes to help warm you up.
Jenna, it's Ken here again.
Hi.
What's the approximate travel time from Tbilisi out to camp?
It's about 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
Zaina, Keith here. Could you explain what the provisions are for bringing family and friends to the last camp?
So we do have the friends and family experience that is happening, and they need to arrive into Tbilisi on the Thursday before, and then we will transport them from the airport or from Tbilisi into Camp 6.
Will they need to bring their own sleeping bags and things like that?
Yes, I will send out an equipment list. The friends and family will need to bring their equipment for nights at camp. Are there any other questions?
I do have one other question. This is Beth here from
Okay.
Seattle. I do have one other question about masks.
Mhm.
Is like here in the US, and I realize it's different everywhere, they're saying that being outdoors, it's not necessary to wear a mask. So I'm wondering why at the camps that's a requirement or a recommendation.
That's a fair enough question. So on the course, we are out in the wide open outdoors, but at camp, we will be around each other. So it is an extra level of precaution that we want to have in place so that at camp you are wearing masks.
Hi, it's Nicolas.
Zaina.
Sorry. You want to put your question maybe before?
You can go first.
Okay. I'm arriving normally Thursday in Tbilisi. Where can we meet with for Friday?
So I will send out specific meeting points in the town, but I'm waiting just to get feedback from everybody so I see where everyone is staying, and then we'll pick the main locations that are the closest to everybody. Most
Okay.
likely one pickup would be at near Freedom Square, but I will, once I have everyone's information and have that schedule put together, I'll let you know what time and where the pickups will be.
Thank you. Second question, you provide the hot water, right?
Correct.
Okay. Third question, I didn't understand very good the sleeping bag and the sleeping pad. We have to take on our bag, or you transport it?
Sorry, it is a bit confusing. So on the mandatory equipment list, you do have to carry one main sleeping bag in your backpack. So that is one that you have to carry with you from camp to camp. The sleeping pad is an optional item. If you choose to bring it, you can bring it. And if you do, you would need to carry that in your backpack that you carry with that sleeping bag from camp to camp. But then in addition to those items, we are having people bring an extra sleeping bag and a blanket to stay warm, which you will not have to carry with you from camp to camp.
Okay. And the last question, the flag nationality patch and the RacingThePlanet patch, you have to put on both sides.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Zaina.
Hi, Marie-Paul here.
Hi,
Oh, sorry,
Marie-Paul.
go ahead. Yes, I knew you were waiting. Sorry, go ahead, Julie.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I can't see anything. May I ask? I've got a couple of questions. One being, what time do we start each stage each day?
So normally,
Two.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry.
No,
go ahead.
and two. Okay, two. I've not planned my entire trip yet, because I've now realized that I can stay a couple of days longer because I want to then go on to the UK to meet my family. So I'm going to have a suitcase because obviously I'm going to be traveling for about a month. Will you, I assume, carry my case for that duration?
So to answer your first question, typically we start at 8 a.m. Every day, but that can change depending on whatever situation is going on. But generally, that's 8 a.m. start every day. And for your suitcase, it's fine to bring your suitcase with you to Camp 1, and then you will have access to it for one night. So when you come on Friday, you bring your suitcase with you. You'll have access to it until Saturday, and then when we do the competitor check-in, that is when we will take that suitcase and it will go back to Tbilisi where it will be stored for the week.
Okay, perfect. And I'm not sure if we know the name of the hotel that we are going to in Tbilisi, because I just thought about if I'm going to stay longer, because then I need to work out which day I have the test to return to go on to the UK. I would just book extra days in that same hotel because it makes sense.
Yep. So the main race hotel after the race for competitors is the Courtyard by Marriott in Freedom Square.
Okay, thank you.
My question was just about flights again. At the moment, I can find flights arriving at around 3 in the morning or 11 at night. Is that something that's unreasonable?
No, we understand that the flights arriving into Tbilisi are at strange hours and will be for most everybody. So that is fine. We will we'll make sure we get you to Camp 1 or help to organize that.
Thank you.
Hi, Sienna. I'm Simone from Luxembourg.
Hi, Simone.
Regarding the Racing the Planet patches, the 8 patches that we were supposed to receive.
Have you not received yours yet?
No.
Okay, I think they went out last week, but I will double check.
Okay. Thank you.
I didn't receive the patches.
Is that Guillermo?
No, me. I didn't receive neither.
Okay.
So some people, they went out some weeks ago. Some of them, they went out last week. If you don't receive them, we'll double check. If you don't receive them, let us know. Shipping is quite difficult at the moment. We generally say that silkscreen patches are actually quite nice on tops as well. But as a worst case, we'll have extra patches in Georgia that we can give to you and either help you to attach, or we will make some leniency with, given everything going on with this race, if you have not been able to receive them.
If I may, it's Mars again, 2 more questions. In relation to the drop bags, do you provide any kind of a bag that should be used as a drop bag, or shall I bring my own stuff as the drop bag?
You should put the 2 sets of equipment in your own separate bags.
Okay, thank you.
I have a little reminder actually related to those patches that we just talked about. So it's been quite a while since many of you have registered. So if you have changed addresses, if you've moved houses since you have registered for the race and you haven't let us know, then please drop Zaina an email just to be sure that we'll send them to the right address. Thanks.
Any other questions or anything I haven't looked in the chat if there's any questions in there that I need to address?
Oh, yes, I have a question, please, Zaina. The 14,000 calories that we have to carry for that week. So obviously basically that's 2,000 calories a day. Do we have to have 2,000 calories on the last day? Do we have to show that, or could we just have enough calories left since it's only 10 kilometers? I say only.
So you have to have a total of 14,000 calories, but you can allocate it slightly differently on every day. But you do need to have the total of 14,000 calories. And yep. So if you chose to have a little bit less on packed for the Saturday, that would be okay. But then it needs to be somewhere else that we can see it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there's a couple of questions in the chat that I'm just going to bring up there. I think most of them I can answer and you will have been able to see them. But there was one question, Zaina and Rita, about midges and mosquitoes.
I don't remember having any issues with mosquitoes when I was there when we were on the course. If you are concerned about mosquitoes, then you could bring mosquito repellent, but there was not an issue with mosquitoes or excessive amount of mosquitoes or mosquitoes at all on the course when we were there.
And I'm pretty sure in Georgia generally mosquitoes aren't a big issue like they are in, say, Scotland or Alaska, places like that in the summer, because it doesn't get so cold there in their winters in Georgia as it does in those places where they go into hibernation and come out. So I was pretty sure it's not a major concern. But if you know, as Zaina said, if you know that you do get bitten, there could be some around, probably more in Georgia than there are normally in a desert race. So you might want to consider bringing mosquito spray. A few other things just that were shared in the chat in case people didn't see them, just to share. Somebody asked about rabies and we were talking about the dogs. So rabies exists in Georgia, but it's not a major issue or concern there. The same that the dogs are there and we wanted to highlight them because they are there, but we don't expect it to be an issue. But it's something that you may want to consider if you're getting your standard vaccinations for travel. You might want to consider getting the rabies vaccine, but it's certainly not a requirement for entering Georgia or for us. And then Beth Whitman, who also works in the travel industry, had some very good recommendations on travel agent and travel insurance. I think probably relevant for the US and also a pickup. So I will share with Zaina, when Zaina sends that information out, we'll share that information there as well. I think those are the only questions in the chat that weren't already addressed.
Okay.
One quick question. The waterproof bags, is that something that needs to go in our backpack, or is that something that goes in our drop bag? Sorry, that may have been addressed in an email. I just don't remember.
So the waterproof bag on the mandatory equipment list needs to line the inside of your backpack so that it can try and keep things dry, all of your clothes and sleeping bag, in case it rains. But then we do recommend for your drop bag that you use a type of waterproof bag as well, but that is separate from the waterproof bag that lines the inside of your backpack.
Okay, and like a trash bag or something, that's not going to count?
Not to line the inside of your bag, no. No, it should be a waterproof bag.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Zaina?
Yes.
Are there any penalties for any certain missing items? You know, are you penalized in any way for anything? And do we need to provide a medical certificate?
Yes, there are penalties that are in place if you have missing items. So if you're for the mandatory equipment list, some items, if you wouldn't have a key item, then you wouldn't be able to start the race because it would be a safety issue, such as a sleeping bag or shoes, things like that, or warm weather gear. And then for other items, it would be a time penalty as well if you don't have specific items which are on the mandatory list. So that's, yes, those items on the mandatory list are mandatory. A medical certificate, yes, we require that you have your doctor sign a medical certificate, and I can share that again with you if you haven't received it, but it has gone out in some of the communication I've sent out but I know I'm communicating a lot of information right now, so it might have gotten buried in my email.
Yeah, please.
Zaina, maybe just clarify. So there's always a lot of forms for the race, but for this race, there's even more forms. And they were in the last email that Zaina sent out. But do you want to, Zaina, just quickly clarify the forms that need to be completed?
Yes, there are quite a few forms. So there's the emergency contact and medical information form, which you go through and fill in and click all the answers to, which goes over any health issues that you might have, anything we need to be aware of. We also ask that you upload a copy of your passport. We also ask that you specify the type of insurance you have, the policy number, and a contact number. And we also require that you have a certificate which states what the race is, that is signed off by your doctor, so they understand exactly what you're going to be doing to yourself, and that the doctor is okay with you doing that. And then there are 2 other forms as well. One which gives me all the logistical information for your flights, when you're coming in, where you're going to be staying if you are in Tbilisi ahead of time, and also COVID related questions so that I know your vaccination status and if any COVID details that we need to be aware of. So there are quite a few forms, but that is the summary of them.
Dana, can I ask you quickly, that medical certificate form from the doctor? Now, like I already sent it to you, I uploaded it. Do we physically have to have that for the race?
No, the digital version that you've uploaded is all.
So once we've sent you all the forms, we don't have to bring anything with us?
No.
That's
The
correct.
proof of your COVID vaccination you need to bring for entry.
Yeah, entry into Georgia.
All right, thank you.
Zina, it's Anand. Might you be able to recommend, I am thinking of doing a few more countries in the region post-race. Is there a local travel agent that you might be able to recommend to help with that?
Yep, I can do that. We are working with travel, our local manager also works with a travel agency, so I can put you in contact. I can include that in an update.
Thanks.
Hi, Zina, you mentioned, or someone mentioned about $50 for a PCR test to fly back. I think in England we need like 3. We need 1 to fly back, and we need to book 2 others in advance. But the 2 others, we can probably do that when we're at the hotel. But the one to do in Georgia, do you need the dollars in cash, or can it be a transfer, or how can that work?
So this is one of those questions that I don't quite have the answer to yet. I am going to try and work out the easiest way to make that happen, and I will let you know if you will need to bring cash, or if we can organize something else. But I am working on that.
Thank you. And then if you had more links for travel agents, I think the easiest way would be to get a travel agent that could sort out an insurance and the flight and all the details, because doing it oneself, I think, is a bit mad at the moment. If you have a good travel agent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? I can't imagine that people are being shy.
And of course, if you think of anything else afterwards, you can always email poor Zaina. You can always email Zaina or any of us, and we will.
I enjoy talking to all of you. It's like I said, it's been a long time coming. So I'm glad for those of you I haven't met, I finally get to do that. So I'm looking forward to it. But yes, of course, any questions that you think of, just message me. I can also schedule time if we want to have a call about anything as well. So yeah, just let me know.
Just one more, sorry. One more question, Gudrun. Just one more question regarding the timing of the race. If people just want to walk and not run, but say like fast walk, but I think the average speed is 4K per kilometer,
4 kilometers per hour.
Exactly, yeah. Which is usually not a problem, but as there's a lot of elevation, So if the course is a bit more difficult, it's not really possible to do that speed, you know, if it's really steep. So is there enough options on the course to actually speed up and go at some flat bits, or is it all
The elevation chart does look a bit intimidating. I should have maybe stretched it out a bit. It looks I think I made it look worse than it actually is. But absolutely, we cater to make sure that people can, it will be challenging, but if you stick to your 4 kilometers or average 4 kilometers over the day, you will be fine to make it within cutoffs. Good run. And I know you will be fine.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, sorry, one last one.
Mhm.
Comparing with the 4 deserts, would you reckon because of the altitude, is that harder or easier?
I wouldn't say it's harder. I wouldn't say it's easier. So the altitude, the overall elevation is not so bad. I guess the elevation is compared to others. Overall elevation is a bit more, but because of the type of terrain, I think it probably evens out to being the same difficulty level as the others. It's not. I wouldn't say it's so much harder. I would say it's about the same.
Easier terrain, but a lot of ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not super high, Mary-Paul. If you look at the top part of the elevation chart, I think the top part is 2,500.
Yeah.
No, I was kind of thinking of, you know, climbing up and down all the time rather than flat.
It's I can answer. I can say it's not constantly up and down. It looks worse because you've got 250 kilometers in a small space. But there is going to be a lot of up and down compared to, say, the Namib Desert, where it's almost all flat. But it's not going to be sandy like that was most of it. Carlos, how would you rate the course in terms of difficulty compared to the Gobi March in Mongolia, for example?
I would say that it's maybe slightly harder than Mongolia. Mongolia is quite easy because Mongolia doesn't have really big mountains, not in the area that we are running though, only on the north and then the west. And Georgia is probably a little bit harder than Mongolia, but it's not very hard because the thing is that the graphic that Zaina showed, you have to make it higher than it is, because if you put it in like the real dimension, then the uphill, some of the uphills, you can barely see them. So the idea is that for you to know that there is an uphill, but 1,000 meters in like 40 kilometers is not much elevation. So, and the good thing also is that technically speaking, it's not like any area that you have to like use your hands or something like that. You can like really walk and fairly easy. So it's not going to be like any kind of hard terrain or complicated terrain, or maybe there's some places like in Levani Lake in the highest point of the course that it's a little bit more rocky on the top, but it's nothing dangerous or something like that. It's quite easy to do it. So you don't have to worry.
Thank you.
And compared to Atacama, Carlos, would you say it's easier or harder?
I would say it's more or less about the same, because I think Atacama is a little bit harder than Mongolia. And so I would say it's about more or less about the same as Atacama.
Okay, but it's different because Atacama is at higher altitude, this is at lower altitude, but this has more climbing.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the elevation gain and elevation loss, and the kind of terrain is also different, because in Atacama we have some areas that are quite sandy, and so the terrain is, technically speaking, is different. But speaking about the elevation gain and loss, I think it's more or less about the same.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think if we don't have any more questions, Mary, you wanted to close things off with some words?
Yeah, just thank you, Zaina, Sam, Rita, Carlos, everyone for that. That was excellent. Just on a more sort of human note, just for those of you who don't know me, I founded Racing the Planet about 20 years ago, and at that time, we actually had SARS, and it was very unclear whether or not we would be able to hold our first race. SARS lasted, I don't know, six to 9 months. So when the recent coronavirus happened, I fully expected it to be over in sort of 6 to 9 months, and here we are a year later, and things in the world are still quite uncertain. But I just wanted to say to everyone out there that it's been the toughest 18 months, especially for those people who have either lost their lives to COVID or have lost loved ones. But I just want to say thank you to everyone for sticking with us. I know it's been a terrible time not knowing whether a race was going to happen, how to sort of train, etc. Some of the people, some of the businesses and people in the world have been able to prosper through the coronavirus. Others have really suffered greatly. And I can say that I think a lot of the people who have really suffered, other than, of course, those who have lost their lives or have family members who have lost their lives, are actually the people in these very, in these third world poor countries. And these countries, such as the people in Georgia, they didn't have a big government to give them an unemployment check every month. So I think it's really important, and it will be great for the psyche of the locals to know that we are coming back, and there is a brighter future for them. So just keep that in mind when you're visiting Georgia, that people are very traumatized, and many have not also had the opportunity to have the vaccine. And again, I want to thank all the people in the healthcare field that have really served so nobly over the last 18 months. And also I feel very blessed and fortunate to have had the opportunity to have the vaccine. So I am just like super excited to be going to Georgia. We have people coming from many different countries. A lot of our old sort of core team will be there. So it's just, and I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone and standing outside, and sitting by the campfire and just trying to get life, back to normal again. So that's it from me. So anyway, thank you, and looking forward to seeing everyone in Georgia.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. And on that note, I think I'll end things now. It's been great seeing some of you in the little boxes and talking to a few of you, and can't wait to see you in Georgia in 43 days.
Brilliant. See you all in Tbilisi.
Thank you, team.
Georgia, here we come.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.